Andrew McCart, iFLTV, delighted to be joined by Mr. Dave Coldwell. Dave, we just said a little bit there before I pushed record. I didn't even know you were at the Catterall Barboza fight. You were hiding somewhere. I didn't even see you. Normally I can see you and I come over and have a chat with you, but
I was just hiding on row A, mate. Just behind the barriers. You can't really see me behind the
ducking down,
barriers.
popping up and ducking
I have,
down.
I have to go. And plus, just inside the barrier, Steve Gray was sat in front of me, so I always end up behind Steve. Steve's massive for those that
He's
don't
like
know,
6'3", six
and
four, yeah.
yeah. So I'm always like looking like this when I'm when I'm sat behind Steve.
I think everyone is. Well, a majority of people will be. I'm glad you mentioned Steve Gray because he refereed Catterall versus Barboza. And I think the best thing to do is just jump straight in the deep end. Then why not? Let's just go straight into it. Was it a knockdown?
Do you know what? I haven't watched the fight back, but it was that quick, and the shot seems so innocuous. He got hit with a jab to the body, I think it was, and it goes over. But I can see why Steve thought that it was a trip, and because the feet were getting tangled.
Mhm.
Um, it's one of those where when it's 100 mile an hour, you're watching what's going off here. Sometimes you don't see the feet clashing. So it's or you do, and you think that you think it's a trip, and it's not. It's a difficult job that, especially when the tripping and stepping on toes, southpaw versus orthodox quite a lot. But the shot didn't seem very heavy, so I can understand why he would have, thought it wasn't a knockdown. When you look at it on slow mo, initially I thought it was a trip of a clashing of the feet initially, but then when you see it on replay, it's not, and it should have been scored a knockdown. But referees don't have
Oh,
the
yeah.
advantage. Yeah, they don't have VAR, they don't have hindsight. So I think if you were to ask people right at that moment when it happened, was it knocked down, was it not? People wouldn't wouldn't have been sure themselves really.
Mm. Well, the fight itself, it was a cagey affair. Maybe it was like both of them were trying to figure each other out, trying to draw one's lead, and it's like
Yeah,
both of them didn't want to lead, if that made sense. It was quite a cagey,
yeah,
hard fight to score, really, because there wasn't many telling punches. But how did you score the fight? What was your final
mate.
at the end of the 12th round?
I'll be honest with you. I said as soon as the fight was over, I just said, I'm glad I'm not scoring that fight
Hmm.
because it was so difficult to score because you might have won a round just on two jabs landing, a double jab, pop, pop, because that little was happening in a lot of the rounds. Not so much even that little. What was happening, a lot of missing.
Hmm.
So the work that was going off, both fighters were so cagey and so sharp with the reflexes that shots were missing, missing, missing. And so in fights like that, it's literally it can be like just three punches landing around
Hmm.
and who got them? Do you know what I mean? It was a difficult fight to score. I kind of thought halfway, I remember thinking I've got it kind of level. I think I've got it level. I was sat in front of a Fowler. There was Stephen Smith as well. Sat behind me as well. And I got it halfway level. I got it level. Halfway, I got it level, and then I think mid sort of fight, Jack seemed to put a couple of rounds together,
Hmm.
and we all thought, oh, he's getting his rhythm now. He's starting to make this a little bit more comfortable now, and then it shifted again, where Jack's work rate dropped. Barbosa started landing, and I thought Barbosa closed the gap. And when it came to the end of the fight, I really wasn't sure, and I kind of thought maybe Jack maybe just nicked it, but I really weren't sure. And when Liam Smith walked past, I went, "How have you got?" When usually when you're asking somebody, "How have you got it?" You're quite confident. You're like, "Oh, I've got it this way." And
Hmm.
it was one of those where like, "How have you got it?" Because I hadn't really got a clue. It was that
Hmm.
close. It could have gone either way. And everybody that we were talking to around was like, "Don't know." So it's one of those fights where I thought Jack might have nicked it, but it can go absolutely either way. And at that point, you're kind of thinking, well, as long as for the sport, you're thinking, as long as you don't have a daft scorecard,
Mm-hmm.
and it is, marginal scorecards, either way you can see who wins the fight. And I thought the scorecards were fine. When you're talking 1 or 2 rounds in a cagey fight like that, you can understand why it goes this way, or you can understand why it goes that way. So I can understand why maybe, I hadn't spoke to Jamie, but maybe Jamie or his team, maybe they thought that they won, but then Barbosa's team thought that they won. Because it was that kind of fight. And the problem with Jack is he's not good at chasing.
Mm.
He's not. He's not.
Was that good was that a good game plan from Barbosa's team then in Barbosa?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, and that you can see the patience, and you can see how clever he was. It was a good fight, a good technical fight, between two good fighters, two patient fighters. It doesn't make for an exciting crash bang wallop type of fight, but if you're absorbed and you just what and you've seen the defenses and the reflexes of fighters, and you've seen them just the distancing that they're getting, both of them, in a defensive manner. If you can appreciate that, then you think this is a high quality chess match. But it wasn't a great fight. It's not a fight that you'd want to watch again and you know go back home, rush and watch it again. It's not one of those kind of fights. But it was a good fight, and very, very hard one to score.
Definitely, I agree. It was a tough one to score. Guys at the media row as well. We were all asking each other where was it, who had who. But
And how did you all have it?
well, I think we were all the same. Some were saying 1 round to Barboza, 1 to Jack, 2 to Barboza, draw. We had some people say it was a draw. So it was one of them fights where, listen, if Jack got it, you wouldn't have bothered. Or Barboza got it, you were like, fine. That's how tight that fight was. Because, like you say, it was cagey. It was like they were both of them were trying to draw each other's lead to try and counter, and none of them were they weren't doing much. But again, that's when you're at that high level, one mistake can cost you, and I think both of them were wary
Yeah,
of that. So again,
yeah.
it is what it is. But Jack will come again. I think he'll get what he deserves at some point in life. I mean, he's
I
a hard worker.
I hope so. This is what I've always said is for me, Jack, he should have got an undisputed title across his name, underneath his name whenever you mention him, former undisputed champion. He should have that going forward for the rest of that, but he hasn't. But what that makes you feel as somebody who I know the kid. I've years ago he boxed on one of my shows. I've had Stephen Cairns do a lot of rounds with him, sparring, and he's been great helping Stephen's development whenever they've been up, whenever they've sparred. Um, you know, he's a nice kid. I like him as a kid. So I want him to become a world champion because I feel it just, when you feel that you should have got something and you never did, to then if he doesn't become a world champion, it'll be for me as a fan, it'd be sad. But I will say he is part of the Who Needs Him club.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if I was managing somebody else who was around waiting for a title shot, in line for a title shot, or if I was
A voluntary.
managing a champion, I would never pick Jack Catterall as a voluntary defense. You just wouldn't, because he's good. It can be make it your worst nightmare. Even if you won, you're not going to look great. You're not going to look, it's not going to help your excitement levels, because he knows how to slow that pace right down. But it could also be you.
Mm.
So he's not the guy. So his management gonna have to work wonders. His promoter Eddie Hearn's gonna have to shell out the cash. But hopefully they get him back into a good position so he can get a world title shot. But yeah, he's part of the Who Needs Me club, and some fighters are like that, and it's unfortunate. But very good, but who needs them? And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those.
Definitely. Well, I tell you what I need. I need that Saturday card to hurry up and come around because I am excited, Dave. I cannot wait for this card. I've got the card up right here. Let me just read the fights. Top of the bill, Beterbiev Bivol, Dubois Parker, Adama Shiraz, Virgil Ortiz, Israel Madrimov, Shakur Stevenson, Floyd Schofield, Zhang at Caballel, Boatsi Smith, and Bradley Ray against Nanga, right? Which is just a little. talked. In fact, I think that fight's off the Bradley Ray fight actually.
It's off.
The
It
boxer.
is
Yeah,
off.
it's
Yeah.
off. But, I mean, them fights I've just this rattled off there. I'm reading from BoxRec. That's where I went wrong there. Look, I'm reading from BoxRec. But I'm going to put you on the spot. Which one are you looking forward to the most?
Apart from the main event.
Apart from the main event, yeah. Yeah, apart from the main
Apart
event.
from the main event. Yeah, main event is special. Um, oh,
You
obviously
tell
there's
me yours,
Dubois
you tell me
Parker,
yours, and I'll tell
but
you mine. I'll tell you mine, you tell me yours.
Virgil Ortiz against Israel Madrimov.
That's what I was going to say.
Is that yours?
That was mine, yeah.
Mate, I can't I cannot wait for that fight. I can't wait for that fight. That's just brilliant. That's a brilliant, brilliant fight. And it's unbelievable because it's kind of going under the radar.
Mm.
You know, that's a special fight right there on ability, talent in the ring, the punch selection of them both, the power of them both. Mate, that's going to be a great fight, a really good fight. But it's a card full of great fights. But that's the one that I'm really excited about seeing as well. But then again, you asked me about Dubois Parker, and I'm the same with that one.
Mm. Jan
Cam Smith
Caballero.
against Boateng. Oh my god! And do you know that? We were talking in the gym today. Caballero has been around the block. I was in Monaco when I think I was working for Sky when he beat Derek Chisora.
Mm.
And then he's obviously disappeared off our radar, and then all of a sudden popped up. He's a lot more experienced. He looks more comfortable in his skin. He's a very good body puncher. And I think the body punching against Zhang, who we know has had stamina problems in the past, and he's 140 years old, but a very good 140-year-older. I think he might pull that off, because he's tough as well, and he's gonna have to be. But he can move. I don't know. It's a good fight, and Zhang's just a brilliant story. He could just go out there and bang him because in the first 4 rounds he's faster than what you think. He's definitely, the more I've seen him since he's been doing these Riyadh season shows and what you see more of him, and you actually appreciate his hands are faster than what you think.
Mm-hmm.
He squeezes them. I know he's a big man, but his foot placement is better than what you think. I don't know. I mean, he could go out there and bang him, but I kind of think Caballero at this stage of his career, with the experience he's got, I think he might pull off the win there.
I want to go to the Virgil Ortiz since it is our favourite, of the one we're looking forward to the most. Not a favourite because, like I say, the card is ridiculous, man. The card, but Madrimov against Ortiz. Ortiz probably, a lot of people saying, was lucky against Boacek in his last fight coming out. We've seen what Boacek done to Ishmael Davis and how good he is and how powerful he is. But Virgil Ortiz is a danger in himself. Do you know what I mean? He's a strong man himself. And what is it? 22 fights, 20 knockouts, or something along them lines Ortiz has had. And Madrimov coming off that Terence Crawford loss. How do you see that one then? Because it is a difficult one to pick, isn't it? I mean, Madrimov's got the skill set, but Ortiz is tough.
Ortiz is very good, but I'll tell you what, I've said from the moment that card got made, there's just something. That was the fight where, out of all the fights where you're trying to pick a winner, I'm like, for some reason, that is the fight where I'm quite clear, I'm quite set. Madrimov beats Ortiz. I've always had it in my head. Madrimov beats Ortiz. I think his skill set, his athleticism, he does punch hard. I just think he beats him. And I thought he put up a great fight against Crawford. Very, very good fight against Crawford. I just think he's an outstanding talent. And yeah, I'm not shifting on that one. That's the one that I'm not really swaying, even though that's a fight that I think is going to be brilliant and it can go both ways. Me personally, I've never shifted on who I think wins that fight. On literally all the other fights, I'm like this, but depending on what day it is. But on this one, I've not shifted. I think Madrimov beats him.
Eddie Hearn will be happy about that because I think Eddie's had a rough time of late, getting beat by other promoters. Frank Warren, I think Oscar De La Hoya beat him, Barboza and Jack Catterall. So even though Eddie's putting his top guys in against other promoters, top guys, he's not getting the rub of the green. So, sometimes he is in some occasions, but he'll be happy with this one that you've picked Madrimov.
Listen, I mean, it won't really mean a toss to him. It's whether Madrimov wins or not. That's what I mean to him. He don't give a shit who I think, who I'm picking. But I
Are
mean,
you ever wrong,
I've
Dave? Are
seen
you ever? Are
people.
you ever wrong?
I've,
Are you ever wrong?
of course I am, mate. Fucking hell. I listen. I'm just a fan. I'm just a fan like you lot, and sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes you get it right. I think I've seen Eddie getting a bit of shit and things like. But you know what? At least when he gets his fighters up there, at least he's willing to roll dice and put them in big fights and exciting fights and fights where there is jeopardy in there. And it's difficult because fans and fans and TV people sometimes will be demanding exciting fights, and we're sick of always knowing. You look at a card or you look at your champion, you know who's going to win. It's a case out. But then on the other hand, is when you do put them in those 50-50 fights or 60-40s or what, there is a chance that your man's going to get beat. And no matter what's happening with Eddie Stable and they're getting beat, he keeps putting them in these in real fights, and it's good in a way that it's almost like it's like the UFC model. It's like what kind of loss are you suffering? Are you going to be brought? If you're going to be brought back, I haven't got a problem with that. The only thing where I'm a little bit more is when they're rushing the young fighters that haven't got the experience yet, and then they're getting beat, and then they're on bottom at pile waiting to get a look in again. That's the only thing that I don't like. And I don't feel as though some of the promoters are developing fighters anymore, developing for longevity. So when they do arrive at championship class, they're good enough and they're experienced enough then to build on top of the experience they've got to stay there for a long time. We're having bright stars shining brightly for a short period of time, and then they're kind of like not out the depth in terms of ability, but out the depth in terms of answering questions about they've not come across these questions before on the way up. So when they get in there and then they haven't got the answers for them. And so either they're scraping through on, scraping a victory out of it, fair enough, or they're getting a controversial victory, which is kind of like taking the shine off them and turning. If you're as a prospect coming through and you get a dodgy decision, unfortunately, in the eyes of a lot of fans, it kind of like it takes people away from you. The sport, oh yeah, young, yeah, and then it's like fucking hell, and then that's how fickle some fans can be. You're still learning the same thing from the experience of the fight, whether you had the loss in the column or not. But if you do get that loss in the column, do you get brought back like with same vigor from the promoter, or is that kind of like right next and don't give a shit about you? And that's my only worry in terms of promoters that are wanting to rush fighters. Is that's you would be a little bit well, but I don't mind putting my fighters in these tough fights or these risky fights while they're learning if you're going to bring them back, and that's the important thing for me.
The good thing is, I think Turkey said that. I think Turkey Halashik has said that even if you lost, it doesn't matter. We need to go down that
But
UFC model.
yes, I get that, but I think Turkey's talking about the higher level fighters.
Right.
I'm sure
You're talking about the prospects and
because
the young guns
I'm
coming through.
talking I'm talking about the prospects that are coming through that haven't got to the Riyadh season shows yet, that haven't got on Turkey's radar yet. I'm talking about the lower down, and then you have an upset and they come, that the promoter that from Turkey's got a filter to the promoters, and they've got to say, all right, okay, we'll put you in that tough, right, we're going to bring you back, no problem, not shelve you up, farm you out here and there, and you don't hear from them again. And a lot of prospects, if they're listening to this interview, they'll know what I'm talking about because they'll have had it, and it's not just with Eddie, it's with other promoters. I'm not just saying that, but that's the one. And I'll be honest and say that is one thing that I have kind of like seen with Eddie is that sometimes when his prospects have been beat or the shine's come off him, it is the right next. I understand that from a business point of view, but the same thing is, just because a fighter gets beat coming through doesn't mean that if they're not still looked after, they can't make it to the top. Bernard Hopkins, I think, lost his first fight, maybe. If I'm right. There are so many fighters that lost early doors, came back. Nigel Benz won. Look at the career that he had, and I remember when he got beat by Michael Watson, everyone was like, he's not going any further. In fact, he got I think he got dropped and looked all out at sea against Anthony Logan, I think it was. And because of that, he was thinking, oh, he's not going to go any further. You see that with fighters that are coming through. But if they're brought back, if they've still got the backing and they're brought back and they've still got, and they've got the good mentality, they learn from them fights and come through, and they can still become champions.
One that comes to mind, just talking about that, my name popped into my head is Maxie Hughes, man. He's the guy that was in that British.
There you go, yeah.
And he never gave up. I mean, he actually thought about retiring after the Leon Walsh fight, got given an opportunity, took it, and now look at him. Do you know what I mean? He's won the IBO. Yeah. So he's been there and thereabouts. He's been in America now.
There are countless fighters like that. It's like, listen, Max Hughes. I managed Max Hughes and got him 2 slots on Sky, I think, for Martin J. Ward, or I think it's something like that. And he lost twice against him, and then that was it. He couldn't get a look in, and but then you look at fast forward. This is what I'm saying about experience. Some fighters, a loss breaks their heart, and they're never the same again. And other fighters, a loss is an experience, and they learn from it, and they go, okay, learn from that. I use that next time I come up with that same scenario, and they adapt to it. They become better fighters. And then they end up being champions. And like I said, you look at, especially, you look at in America, you look at a lot of Mexicans, even, right? A lot of Mexicans that come over and end up being world champions have come out of nowhere. Look at the record; they've got lost on the record.
Yeah,
lost. So I watched this. There can be kids. I've always said this, even when I was promoting, and there can be kids that have got 10-0 records, mate. They're not very good. It's just that they've got manufactured records by. I'm not suggesting that when you're boxing on TV shows or Eddie or Frank or anybody like you're fighting guys that aren't trying to win. I'm not suggesting that. There are levels you can go up, and so you are learning as you go, because you're not learning anything when you're fighting guys that don't try and win. And a lot of fighters you can see with the 10-0 records, spectacular looking records, they're not fighting guys that are throwing punches back. So you're not learning anything from those fights. And that's when, you can look at somebody with a great record and look at somebody who's got some losses, and it's like, hang on a minute, that record doesn't stack up with his ability. Who's he fought? He's fought some good fighters, and so he's learned.
Definitely. Let's talk about the main event then. I know it's a hard segue away from what we're talking about there, but let's talk about the main event, the Bivol Beterbiev rematch. The first fight for me, I was lucky to be at, and I loved every second of that fight because, again, even though it was a chess match and it was cagey, there was still, you can see this big shots landing, and there was flurries, and it was almost like you were waiting for something to spark and something dramatic to happen. But because you've got 2 high-level operators, when it comes to their feet and stuff like that, they never cancel each other out. That's probably the wrong thing to say, but you can see their minds working, and they're trying to figure out little gaps in that. And I enjoyed that as a boxing fan and as a purist, if you want to call me that. But yeah, the rematch though, Dave. Again, I'm going to put you on the spot. You know me, I like to get them comments like Dave Coldwell's talking shit. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Hanging me out to dry again.
Yeah, hang you out to dry.
So the first fight, going into the fight, I thought Bivol. On the night, I actually thought Bivol won the fight, but it was one of those fights where I thought could go either way. But I like Bivol's work, and I thought Bivol. But I remember, and I've said this to you before, I think it was after round 5, I've turned and I've said to either Callum Simpson or somebody else from Sky, why is Beterbiev not going to the body? I was shocked because I expected him to be going to the body straight away. Now, towards the end of the fight, you saw where it was getting hard for Bivol, and Bivol was getting dragged into more moments of a fight. Whereas earlier in the fight, it'd be every so often he'd hold his feet, he'd exchange, and he'd get the better of the exchanges in a lot of cases, but then he'd be back off again. But Beterbiev, I think, only started going to the body really probably about 7 rounds in. And he dragged Bivol into that dogfight towards the back end of the fight. Now, I expect they've gone back. He's had more time for his knee to repair and to heal up. Because don't forget, that was a short window of time. When you get to that age and having a major knee operation like that, yes, you can still walk, you can get in there and whatever. But have you been able to get the full purchase on the knee to have the full training that you would normally do?
Mm.
And are your legs moving as sharp as what they would normally do in that window of time? Now he's had longer, the knee's in better shape. I expect he'll have been able to do more work in relation for fitness, conditioning, and sharpness of feet. I think he's going to go to the body from round one.
Mm.
And so by doing that, I think it drags Bivol into a dogfight earlier. Now, can Bivol ride those moments out like he did in the first fight if they start a lot earlier? So when it gets to the back end, towards the back end of the fight, has he still got enough in the tank still to keep his boxing together and get out of the way of the majority of stuff and ride and weather those moments? I don't know. I don't know if he could. But then the flip side of it is Bivol's also going to go back, study the fight, and think. And there's a thing with fighters. No matter how confident you are, when you're going in with a beast, an absolute monster who's knocked everybody out, right? There's an element of, no matter how confident you are, there is an element of hesitation, maybe of fear, of not scared, but fearful of getting caught one of these big shots because you don't know the power. It's like you're turning everybody out. You don't want that to happen to you, so you even cage you. So now he's tasted that. Now he's stood in moments of that, and he's stood when he's tired, and he's felt the power coming through. You saw the face. You saw, even when they were hitting through the gloves, you saw the damage it was doing to him. Does he feel more confident now, thinking, I've tasted it, I've not got that same fear of the unknown now, and he does more?
Mm.
So if he can do more, and Bivol's very, very fit, very, very sharp and loose, does he catch Beterbiev with more? Does he have the advantage because of that? But then also, does that, because he feels as though he can take it, does it leave him to be taking more chances and then get caught? Mate, this is why I don't know who wins the fight. Because, again, I thought, right, Bivol. But then I thought, Beterbiev's going to go to the body more.
Mm.
And I don't think if he does go to the body more and he has more success early, I don't think in that last quarter of the fight that Bivol's going to be sharp enough not to be taking heavy shots. Because if you watch that last fight, towards the end, it was like you could see it was getting hard. But I think both men are going to be better this time, and that's why I think this fight's going to be better. I think
That
it's
was
going to be
my
a
next
great,
question.
great
That's
fight.
what I was going to say. I was going to say to you, with all
Oh,
that being said,
better,
we've got a better fight.
a better fight. I think this fight's going to be a great, great fight. I really do. I think it's going to be better. And for the pure reason that for the first 4 or 5 rounds or so of that first fight, I was shocked that Beterbiev didn't go to the body as much. Chest, body. I expect him to go there, and this one, I expect him to go there. I expect him to hunt the body down straight away, and I think it's just going to make for a really, really good fight. I can't wait for it. I can't wait.
Nick
So
and I,
exciting.
Dave. And you know I'll be texting you Sunday morning for your reaction to it.
Well, make sure your time difference is right if you're not out there, because I'm there.
Are you out there? Are you?
Yeah, I
Why
can't
I'm
wait.
not out there? You lucky. When are you flying out?
I fly out on Thursday. Just getting for I fly out on Thursday night. Arrive Thursday night. I'm there for the weigh-in. There for fight night. Fly back Sunday morning.
Uh,
Back Sunday afternoon.
no, I'm gutted. I'm not there, to be honest. Gutted.
I'm working. I'm working. So I'm lucky. I'm lucky.
Well,
I'm
I
blessed.
wish I wish
Yeah.
I was working. I'm telling you, Dave. Listen, enjoy it
I
out there,
can't believe it.
man. Enjoy the fight. And yeah,
Oh,
like
I will do. Don't worry.
I'll piss off. Listen, enjoy it. I hope it's a stinker. So
Oh, well, if that's a stinker, I'm sure Dubois Parker will make up for it. Callum Smith against
Andrew, all right, all right, all
Joshua.
right, okay, 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 all right, I get
Don't
it.
forget, I tell you what's an underrated fight: Shiraz against Adames. Because
Damage.
Adames ain't bad, you know. He's good. That's a
Exactly.
good fight. It's
That's a
such
good
a good
fight.
show.
Even Shakur and Schofield, I'm looking for. That's a
Yeah.
decent, that's a good fight on the undercard as well. It's
Schofield's a really good prospect. I just think, I think maybe that's a little bit too early for him.
yeah, 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 definitely. Well, Dave, enjoy it out there. Enjoy the fight, and yeah, I won't speak to you on Sunday morning, but listen, enjoy it, and I'll catch up with you soon, brother. Thanks so much, David.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Cheers, Dave. Thank you. Bye bye.